Good morning and welcome to Not the Andrew Marr Show. We have a massive show today, loads on it, and I better shut up because if I keep talking then we'll waste time. So I'm going to go straight in to our newspaper reviewers. John Dunn, are you there, John?
Yes, I'm here, Crispin.
How are you today?
Brighouse.
Is it sunny?
Yes, very sunny. We had hurricane force winds almost yesterday, but like me today, nice and calm.
Oh, great! I'm pleased to hear. Spring's coming, and we've also got Deepa Driver joining us again this week. How are you, Deepa? All right?
Morning, Crispin. Yeah, really good.
Looks funny there as well in your library.
Yeah.
Right now we've got our four stories to go through today. John, I was wondering what you thought about the first, the main headlines about this Gray report and how it's being that the police aren't being helpful to the public by actually telling us what's going on. Is this a new thing that the police don't actually tell the public what's going on? Because I seem to be reading it as though it's really shocking that the police are doing something underhand.
Well, when you look at the police's history, especially the Met and the issues they've covered up, the Stephen Lawrence murder, where they actually investigated his parents, Blair Peach way back in the 70s, that they killed and never ever investigated. They've been complicit over the years in helping blacklist trade union activities. And of course, you've got the spy cop saga now, and one of those brave women's just been awarded £230,000 for the Met sending in undercover officers to set up illicit relationships as a form of spying on these activists. But it's almost laughable when they said, first of all, we can't investigate this because it's already happened. Well, apart from people like the Shrewsbury Pickets and other activists who get done for conspiracy, most crimes have already happened by the time they investigate it. And to actually, if you think about it, they asked Sue Gray, who's only a second-tier civil servant. If you're running a company and you're accused of something and you asked a relatively junior official to investigate it and find out if you were guilty, that's the ridiculous thing. And the Met don't start, I can go back to 84, 85, when, every police force was vicious to us in the extreme, but the Met in particular, when they give you a beating and take you to the point of death almost, they'd leave a card on your chest that said, "You've met the Met." And and if they, and I can see what will happen if they investigate allegedly and they come out and say, "Oh yeah, but Boris, even though he lives there, Johnson didn't know there was a party going on and he was ambushed by a cake." It's sounding a bit like a slapstick comedy, and they just issue fixed penalty notices to a few relatively junior staff. Then that's undermined everything, and it's all gone away. And I saw Lisa Nandy, forgive me for saying her name, this morning on one of the shows, where she said they're not putting down no confidence motions in Johnson because they don't think the Tories will support it. Well, when did you take a principled stand that depended upon your opposition? It's laughable. It's going to be a whitewash, kicked into the long grass, whatever you want. And ultimately, this to me has exposed the us and them. We have to abide by laws. They make them and they break them. And that's the tack Labour should have been taking all along. But you know, we are where we are with the alleged opposition, and I think you know, I'd rather people were upset about 200,000 dead from mishandling of a pandemic and an NHS being destroyed, but you know, we have to seize every opportunity, and unfortunately, get rid of Johnson. There's going to be somebody just as bad.
Yeah. Well, thank you, John. Now, Deepa, the second story we've got is it's something I thought this was about Spotify. When I saw this thing, I thought it was about Spotify not paying enough to the artists who perform. But then I had to look at it again, and it seems that Neil Young has said that he won't go on Spotify if an anti-vaxxer has a podcast on Spotify. And now Joni Mitchell's joined in to say she won't go on. What I can't get my head around this. Why do you think this is? What do you think is going on here? I mean, I can't work it out really. Why do they think Spotify is such an important platform that they have to make a stand on it?
I think it's not about Spotify being an important platform. It's about liberals saying who and which arguments they are willing to hear and silencing everybody else who is in opposition to them. So what Joe Rogan has done isn't the issue at stake. It's the censorship of anybody and everybody who holds alternative views to what is the common view. But you know, you can see it starting with Trump being taken off Twitter, and most of us don't have any sympathy with Trump. But the fact that the leader of the free world can be censored by one corporation deciding who can speak and who can't speak shows you how powerful these corporations have now become and how in bed they are with the liberals and the Democratic Party, which has very little difference from the Republican Party today, because you can see that they both like corporate America, they both are extremely corrupt, they both are good at silencing everybody else. Trump does it slightly more crudely, and these guys do it in a more sophisticated way. And they do it by shutting down discourse. And this is what they've done. If you look at Shad Abu Salam's case, or the case of David Miller, you can see how the anti-Semitism narrative can be used to silence people in academia. It's all part of the same debate, which is one of the broader discourse of freedom of speech and the narrower discourse of academic freedom and the right to research and the right for people to express alternative views without being silenced. And I just wanted to highlight to the viewers that Jonathan Cook has written last week saying how people like him are being silenced, and because the algorithms are deciding who gets seen and who doesn't get seen. And there's been a plea from a lot of us asking people to follow to subscribe to Craig Murray, you know, the former ambassador to Uzbekistan, and Jonathan Cook, because Jonathan says he's at the stage where he's seriously considering whether he will no longer be heard again. Right. So, yeah.
Well, we're going to be talking about no platforming from 11:30 if people are interested in that. So this whole concept's going to be brought out a bit more then. Now, John, the next story is about Sharon Graham. This is the Mail. They looks like they're creating a new union bogeyman here. Is that a compliment to Sharon Graham? I guess it is, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And isn't it refreshing to see the papers with slogans like hard left and things like that, purely, and you know, oh, this horrible lady is destroying people's half term because she's stopping rich people flying out of Heathrow to take the kids for a bit of sun. I don't know anybody who can afford to take their kids away during school holidays. The prices are so extortionate, and the airlines have ramped up prices anyway, since there's been a bit of a rush to book some time away, and some of the phraseology. She was supported by the SWP and the Socialist Party forget the trade union members that voted for us. You were supported by these tiny little groups, and and congratulated by Jeremy Corbyn, and forgive me if I laugh at this next statement, the far left momentum, you know, the people who won't even come on your show because they don't like criticism. So, I mean, what they forget is that people have had enough. We've had decades of attacks upon workers' living standards. We've had 11 years of austerity, and people are rising up. And despite every obstacle that's put in trade unionist way in terms of ballots and things like that, and getting trade union recognition, people are fighting back. And all Sharon is doing is supporting them. Remember, she didn't want to go to Labour Party conference because she'd rather spend time on picket lines, which, you know, given the state of Labour Party conference, was perhaps the wisest move anybody made. And you know, they're throwing out bully boy techniques because of their leverage campaign, where you actually go and disrupt the lives of the people and the shareholders who are causing the problems. Why should people be forced to take strike action or continue suffering in work when the rich are still living in their mansions and attending luxury dinners? So I'm quite chuffed that the Daily Mail is taking this. It shows that they're getting worried, and it takes me back. You know, Arthur was the big bogeyman at the time, and they always like to encapsulate struggle in one individual. As I say, it's not these workers rising up, it's this evil Sharon Graham encouraging them, because they're all sheep.
Yeah, that's true. They just want to personalise everything like they did with Jeremy Corbyn as well. It's the same sort of thing. Thanks, John. Now, Deepa, the last story is about the UCU and the strike. I was just wondering if this is from the Morning Star. Do you have any information on that, and can you tell us more about the strike there?
Sure, I have a lot of information on that. I'm one of the negotiators in the pension strike, so I can tell you a little bit about what's going on. Essentially, employers are trying to give us a 30% cut thereabouts for most people in our guaranteed pension. So if any of you are pensioners, think about what a 30% cut to your pension would mean to your standard of living. Then think about what that means if you've had several years. I have several members in, not just in my branch, but in my region, who have been on precarious contracts for 10, 14 years, which means that they don't accrue a pension. And it's a kind of rite of passage to go through these casualized contracts. Everybody assumes these Deliveroo contracts are only for people who are, you know, frontline workers. But this is the model of higher education, where they build new shiny buildings. They have managers who think they are CEOs and think they're running the universities like businesses, while milking the students and staff. And after years of this, you then come to your retirement and you find that this pension scheme is now being reduced by 30%. And guess what? They're doing it while the pension scheme has grown from £66.5 billion before the pandemic to £92 billion today. So over the course of a pandemic, it's grown about £30 billion. And yet employers are trying to get in bed with the fat cats at the university superannuation scheme and pretend we need a cut to benefits because there is a deficit. It's an absolute lie. It's nonsense. And we shouldn't buy into it. And, you know, one of the dangers with trade unions today is employers say something completely insane, and trade unionists try and, you know, like the Labour Party, to try and be reasonable by meeting them in the middle. And, you know, you don't advocate for your members by meeting in the middle. You try and get an answer that actually justifies what the reality is. And so that's what's happening on the pension scheme for you know, librarians, professional workers, you know, and for academics and researchers and everybody else.
And when's the strike, and how can we show support
Oh, the strike's going to start in the second week of February, so Valentine's Day and thereabout. So just around that week, and then going into March, and we're expecting to have rolling strikes going into the summer, including exam boycotts. We've had huge support from the National Union of Students, and there's a joint day of action and walkout by the NUS on the 2nd of March. If you're anywhere near a picket, I think people really, really appreciate if you can bring a hot cup of tea, or if you can just, you know, come and say hello and say you support us, because when you're on that cold, wet picket line, it's not very, it feels quite lonely, especially when everybody's online and not many people come to pickets. It's really nice if your trades council, or if your local Labour Party, or indeed anybody else, just comes and brings a delegation and tells us how much you care about what's going on in our lives.
Okay, well, we'll all go out and support this strike. Everyone on the call knows about it, and if you can send some links and stuff, we'll keep people informed and probably update them as well as it goes on. Thank you, John, and thank you, Deepa.